Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. And when I started this show in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women-owned businesses and help women succeed by providing resources and valuable tips from other women and men, small business owners. In each interview, my guests speak openly about their triumphs, the scary times, and tough decisions they had to make along the way. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strengths to achieve success on their own terms. Hi everyone, welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host Deborah Bailey. I'm really glad that you could join me today. And if you're listening to this show on Podomatic, you can also find Women Entrepreneurs Radio on iTunes. And recently we've put the selected shows on SoundCloud, and the archive of shows is slowly been moved over to Libsyn. So those are a few other places to find the show. And if you're interested in checking out any of those other platforms, you can also come to womenentrepreneursecrets.com and check on the radio menu item, and there's a list of links leading to the different platforms and a little bit more information about the show. And also, if you're interested in being a guest, there's the guidelines that you can download on that page as well. So my guest today is Pamela Webber, and she's the Chief Marketing Officer of online graphic design marketplace 99designs, which recently released the results of an online survey of more than 1,000 parent entrepreneurs, specifically looking for insights into the reality of today's mompreneurs. In addition to heading up global marketing for 99designs and supervising the survey project, Pam is a seasoned mompreneur herself as a founder of weeDECOR, an e-commerce site selling eco-friendly wall decors for children's rooms, and mother to a 4-year-old son. So welcome to the show, Pamela.
Thank you, Deborah. So glad to be here.
So, before we get started on this particular topic, if you could just take a couple of moments and just share a little bit about yourself and your own entrepreneurial journey. You have this other e-commerce site, and that really sounds really interesting. What are the things that you did to bring you to this point in your career and business?
Sure. So I started out in a variety of marketing and business type roles at some both smaller and larger companies, and I caught the entrepreneurial bug about, how long ago was it now? Maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it was, I was just really excited about trying something on my own. Like most entrepreneurs, I'm very excited about trying something on my own. Had experience in the e-commerce space and wanted to work on something that leveraged my skills and gave me kind of the opportunity to build something from scratch. I viewed that as something really exciting. Mm-hmm. And so I came up with the idea for weeDECOR, which, as you mentioned, is a wall decal site for kids and babies' rooms. And what was really interesting about that endeavor is I didn't start off with that idea per se. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that's really interesting about most entrepreneurs that maybe you don't always hear about. But most entrepreneurs sort of start with an idea and end up doing something, sort of slightly different because you learn a lot through the process. Mm-hmm. So nonetheless, I was interested in the home decor space. I was interested in print-to-order products. I came across the wall decal category, and I did some research amongst what I believed to be the home decor buyers in the U.S., which mm-hmm. I thought were probably moms. So I sent out a survey to 100 and some plus moms and asked them about wall decals, what they liked about them. And what I got back was they really liked the idea and the concept, and they really liked it for their kids and babies' rooms. And at this point, I actually didn't even have a child. And I thought to myself, gosh, I'm about to go into the baby business. And I don't have a child, but that's where the market is leading me, so that is where I will go. Mm-hmm. And so I started the site. I developed a product line. I developed the the branding and the packaging and, you name it. I found the vendors and suppliers, and I did, pretty much everything from the start. And I did that for 4 years and hired people to do various activities. And it was a wonderfully fabulous experience. I would, never give it back for the world. But I did decide I was sort of tempted by, and maybe some of the other bigger company stuff that I was missing a little bit. And I was tempted to join 99designs, and I actually did join 99designs as their head of marketing. And I think one of the reasons why I'm here is because I am an entrepreneur, and 99designs services so many entrepreneurs that it really was very in tune with what I was doing before. And now I am in a role where I help many entrepreneurs get their businesses off the ground.
That's fantastic. Really is. And very, very good point that you made, that people may end up in a different place than they may have thought in terms of what businesses and entrepreneurs will start or have an idea, and maybe you might lead them in a whole other direction. So I think that's a great point to make, particularly for those people listening who may think they have to have it all figured out before they get started. And I think that's good news for people. Definitely, very good news that you really don't, you never know how things are going to unfold. When I was contacted about the survey, I thought it was really very interesting. And it was like the reality of today's mom entrepreneur, and saying that she's happier and more balanced than you might expect. And that's very interesting, because I think the idea is someone being really frazzled or trying to juggle everything or whatever the current stereotype may be of how people think mompreneurs are managing it. But what prompted you to decide, we're going to put the survey out here and really see what's going on?
Sure. What prompted us was we actually did a survey a couple months ago where we were just looking at entrepreneurs who, we were calling them the DIY or the do-it-yourself entrepreneur, and trying to learn more about them. And when we cut the data, we saw some pretty significant differences between males and females. And specifically, one of the insights was that women, or that men rather, tended to raise money at sort of twice the amount and 3 times the rate that women did. And we thought that was pretty interesting. And so we started digging into the female side of that research, and kind of, it sort of meandered into this sort of the mom entrepreneur space. And so that was what had incented us, and kind of interesting based on my previous comments on my own entrepreneurial and career journeys. Similarly, this research sort of led us to mom. We didn't start there.
But that's very interesting as far as the funding, though. I mean, you hear about the funding gaps for women business owners in general, but that's really pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you hear about sort of, if you want to look more broadly at the funding gap in terms of compensation, differences in compensation between men and women. So yes, as I said, we found men were more likely, or 3 times more likely to raise money. And then when they did, they tended to raise twice as much as women did.
Wow. That's a big difference. My goodness sakes. It's like,
It is.
Wow. Do you think that's because women may hold back a little bit, or is it just that the avenues aren't there?
I think, gosh, I mean, I could talk forever about this. Why do I think? I think there are many reasons. I think, one, women probably don't think to do it. I think, or, to go after the money. I think, two, more commonly, but they might have businesses or go after business ideas that don't need it, or they think they don't need it. And I think there also is some systemic issues with financing, in this country that go back, for generations around, the, women with access to funds. I mean, I think it was not that long ago. I think it was like in the 1970s or something when a woman could finally have a credit card in her name.
Yes.
So, it's not even as if we're really that far from that.
Mm-hmm.
And, which sort of, again, speaks to kind of the systemic, issue in financing for women. So, as I said, I could sort of talk in detail of all three of those, but I think those are the three primary reasons why the funding gap exists.
Yeah, you're right. It is a very, very big topic. It's a lot involved in it. And it's definitely part of the conversation for women entrepreneurs across the board. But, another finding was the majority of mompreneurs started ventures at age 40 or older. That's very interesting. Was that surprising?
It is. It was surprising to us. What was really interesting about it was not only, the sort of 40 and above, but the fact that men tended to start their ventures a little younger. Mm-hmm. And somewhat related to that, women were more likely to start their venture after they had children compared to men. Mm-hmm. So 80% of women started their ventures after having children versus only 60% of men. And so what's interesting about that is it that women are, holding off because they are spending time with the children? Mm-hmm. Is it that they're building confidence in themselves as, leaders and individuals over time? I'm not sure, I think both of those theories have some merit. Mm-hmm. But it does present some interesting challenges, because one of the things that, anyone will tell you about entrepreneurship is that it is such a learning and growing process. Mm-hmm. That, if you do it later, you just have less time to learn. So there's a lot of learning and failure. And if you start at an earlier age, you're more likely to get those failures under your belt and find success sooner than if you do start later.
That is a good way to look at it. And I think, for a few people I know who started business after their children were a little older, they were in corporate or trying different things, and after a while just being so dissatisfied with the experience, and maybe being in situations where they felt they didn't have enough control, didn't have enough time at home, feeling all the conflicts between maybe more demands of the job and the workplace, and then maybe having to go take care of parental duties, and just some experiences that I saw in corporate where sometimes it was kind of looked down upon. Particularly, they seem to do that with moms who may need to leave a little early, but it's not like they were taking advantage of anything. They were still putting in the hours. But it was almost like, well, that's kind of a lack of commitment because you
want to. As I said, there's sort of lots of systemic reasons why, women do have the compensation gap as well, to your point, right? Is that, either they have taken time out, or if they are, choosing to kind of come off that career path, more commonly maybe than men. You could see how that, sort of continues to build itself into the system, which to your point, may lend itself to more female entrepreneurs, because they decide not to kind of run that rat race, and they decide to take control, more control of their schedule and their lives by pursuing an entrepreneurial venture.
It's very true. And it's a lot of times that's what I've heard from people that I've interacted with. They just hate having to be torn, or just are not satisfied with what they're being offered in the workplace.
Yeah. I mean, and I do, I feel as if like the last maybe 15 minutes ago, we've been talking sort of negatively about, corporate America and sort of women not making as much money. But I would like to say, having been in the work world for the last 20 years or so, I do think a lot of progress has been made. Mm-hmm. I do see more sensitivity in the work environment, even I would say in the last 5 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. I've seen more, kind of men step up and sort of take time off for, to spend time with their kids. I've seen, technology really enable us to have that flexibility. I mean, even you and I right now are talking, not in person, which we wouldn't as easily been able to do years ago. So there are disadvantages, and I think both culturally as well as technically that have enabled enabled this progress. So I think we are making progress.
Yes. It's not all dim and gloom. It certainly is. And you know, back in the day, along with the credit card situation, there was also the time when women wouldn't have had the same opportunities. She would be the secretary, or that would be the assumption of what you'd be doing, as opposed to other opportunities that exist. So that definitely has been a major change over the years. So yeah, it's not all it's not all terrible. Very true. It's not all bad news there. But you know, when you know, looking at the other findings, it was like over 70% of mompreneurs putting in time to work after the kids are in bed. So when does the day ever end?
Yeah, it really doesn't. It's so the other interesting stat from our survey was that 70% of these mom entrepreneurs are still the primary childcare provider, which, you know, as you can imagine, you know, as you said, just there are barely enough hours in the day to work, let alone work and parent. So how do they do it? That is one of the things we dug into our survey. And it was interesting because one of the women we spoke with, she's the founder of Red Tricycle, which is an email newsletter and website that helps you identify great places for your kid's birthday party or other kind of mom-friendly information. And one of the things she spoke about was the difference between thinking about work-life balance and thinking about work-life integration. And I thought that was a really interesting term because work-life balance assumes that things are going to be very separate. That you're going to go to work for a certain number of hours, you're going to come home for a certain number of hours and not do work. Whereas work-life integration sort of sounds a lot more flexible. And, you know, kind of in thinking about, you know, if you have a glass and you're trying to fit both, you know, rocks and sand and stones in it. How do you do so you maximize, you know, what's in that glass? You don't necessarily do all the, you know, put all the sand in there first and then put the rocks. You kind of maybe put some things in and some other things in later in order to, again, maximize what you can fit in. I think that's also how, you know, mom entrepreneurs are managing to kind of keep both the business and the family together. They're not necessarily thinking about it's one or the other. It's sort of the and, you know, I kind of it sort of gives and takes or ebbs and flows, based on, you know, the demands of either of those things, either business or family.
Yeah, that's also, a really good point, because there's always a sense, when you see, I guess, articles and everything in the media, there's always the mention of balance. And looking for balance as though somehow this mythical balance is going to happen if you just keep working.
Exactly, yeah. And it just doesn't. And I think the other thing that really has, I think, changed over the years is sort of that you do have, you know, so kind of the perfectionist on either end. Like, you either have to be the perfect parent or the perfect, you know, the perfect business person, whether that's your own entrepreneurial venture or not. You know, I think there just is a little bit more of the 80-20 that maybe you kind of like do 20% to get yourself 80% of the way there. Maybe both at work and family to enable you to fit it all in. So I think that's, you know, those are some of the strategies that these moms are using. Aside from the fact that they probably are just very good at how they use their time. I know that, you know, for me, that was one of the things I spent a good amount of time on, making sure that I was, you know, very productive, whether that was, you know, time with my child or time at work. So that I was kind of maximizing my energy in both of those areas.
Yes, that's true. That's another good point. Being more productive and really paying attention to how you're spending your time. You don't have a lot of time to just waste.
Right. And the other interesting thing about that, again, kind of coming back to maybe the advantage of starting a business is when you're older, is that you do know that much more. You probably are a little better about choosing what you work on and how hard you work on it. Because, you know, you've spent however many years sort of practicing that.
Right.
So, potentially, you really are kind of in a more, in a better place to start a venture because you've had that experience and can now, better make decisions on how to spend your time.
Mm-hmm. That's true. You have more of a sense of yourself and what you should be doing and how you should managing it, and all of that definitely goes together. That's another point.
Yeah. And what you should be prioritizing. For example,
Yeah.
I found for me, I needed to prioritize sleep. And so if, things weren't clean or, honest to God, I would rather go to bed hungry than to lose sleep. You just, prioritize. That is, what works for you.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah. Because that's something like one of the friends I was mentioning who started her business after her children were a little older, and she just sleep is something that she kind of puts on the side. I'm like, how are you doing this? I don't understand, but as you said, the priority, maybe something else for her is not
Sure.
the priority, but the sleep. She's gonna just put a few hours in. I'm like, I don't know how you do that. I
do envy those people as well. My husband is one of them. I don't know how he does it.
It's like, what are you doing?
I sleep with him.
Like, what is this? But it's true. I mean, it depends. You're right on the person and what's the priority. And some people, need more sleep than others, I guess. So I figure that must be it. I don't know, because it's just the point where I just can't. Everything shuts down. So I may want to do it, but I just can't do it. So my hat is off to folks who can. So we're just going to take a very short break and we'll be right back. This is Women Entrepreneurs Radio, available on dbccoach.podomatic.com and iTunes. Hi everyone, we're back with Pamela Webber, and she's the Chief Marketing Officer of online graphic design marketplace 99designs. So we've been having a really interesting conversation about the survey that they had over about 1,000 parent entrepreneurs and looking into insights into reality of today's mompreneurs. So this is really, really good conversation. So, before we, address a couple more points, if you could please share the website for 99designs and also any other social media or anything else you'd like to share.
Sure. So you can find us at 99designs.com. That's 99designs.com. And we are a graphic design marketplace. We can help you get a logo, a website, business cards, email templates, you name it, whatever design you need for your startup or your business. And you can follow me on Twitter at Pam Webber. That's all one word, PAMWEBBER _SF as in San Francisco on Twitter. I tend to tweet about entrepreneurial advice, small business advice, and graphic design.
It's interesting because when I came out of corporate myself, 506, and it was just so hard to find information and about entrepreneurship, and it just seemed like there's been such a major explosion. I guess after the financial meltdown, I think a lot of that happened, but suddenly it was like everything is entrepreneurship right now.
Well, I will have to say there is something to be said for that. Obviously, I'm sure you're familiar with other trends, how,
yes.
Companies are becoming more efficient. They're reducing full-time employment. There are a lot of more kind of freelancer type opportunities. I can think of many, in many industries like publishing, for example, which is just been, which is decimated by the financial crisis. And also sort of the advent of the internet and content on the internet. And there are just many professions that are now, essentially self-employed professions. And so there's a lot of need for advice on everything from, how do I protect myself financially? How do I attract clients? How do I, kind of manage my work day? There's, just a ton of need for that type of advice. So I think that's one of the reasons why we have seen a lot of information on entrepreneurship. Both one, because there really is a need for the information, and frankly, there's a need to educate, the world,
Mm-hmm.
which is now moving towards these, kind of the gig economy, as they call it, and helping these people manage their their self-employment status.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. And the technology constantly moving and everything. It's totally changed, I think, the whole idea of work and what that means and what could you, what different ways that you could be applying yourself. So I think it's really exciting, but it just seems like it's such a change from at that time when it was just, before we got to this point where people were looking at it, but then they were, you really had to dig to find information until now it's
Mm-hmm.
totally different, and things have so speeded up in such a way that it seems to me like such a fast change that's happened, but it's a really, really profound change as well. And I think a lot of people still don't realize how deep a change this is and what the effects are going to be. But it's pretty exciting, I think, if you can be open to the changes happening. It's pretty exciting. So, another point here was about, is it 8% of women say they spend fewer than 3 to 4 hours per week on outside hobbies. What did you think of that?
Honestly, I wasn't super surprised by that. In looking at my own situation, when you have, a child and a business, those are essentially your two priorities. Mm-hmm. And so hobbies kind of tend to go out the window. Now, what is interesting is we didn't ask specifically about the hobbies. Mm-hmm. So, for example, some women might call working out a hobby, others might not. Mm-hmm. So, we don't have the clarification on that definition, but I think it might be safe to assume that hobbies are something that, if the mom had the time, she would, she would do it, but,
right.
She prioritizes other things. So, not super surprising, but, not super surprising.
Right, yeah, because it's like, how many hours do you really have?
Exactly.
That's true. And, so I think, as you said, that's not surprising. Then you look at, it says, also you're saying less time exercising, or even maybe less time socializing with friends. As you said, it's your priority as to what in this time may be more important for you to pursue.
And I'm sure, you've probably observed friends and colleagues who have moved from sort of pre-motherhood status to post-motherhood status. Mm-hmm. And, their time balance does change. Work, child, hobbies, friends, working out. You do, when that life event comes, you do need to reevaluate how you do spend your time and make sure that you are, that you are optimizing it in the way that, is best for you and your family.
Very true. And as you go through the different stages of your life and, certain things, as you said, become maybe the priority, or, how old your children are and what different things you may be doing. And that all factors in. So I think that's what you're saying about integration as opposed to balance. That makes so much more sense then.
Absolutely. And as I said, technology really enables you to do that. Mm-hmm. We have our smartphones, so we have access to communication channels. We have, internet and connectivity pretty much, in any Starbucks corner, any Starbucks every corner. We have a wealth of information at our fingertips that enables us to be, very productive at work. Which also allows us to do that work remotely or in those, time periods in the day when we do have a little bit of break from family.
That's so true. And I think the technology has really enabled people to connect, as we were saying, don't have to be in the same place to have this conversation or connect around the world if you're selling different things or you're just interacting with other people in different places just to kind of connect and network. It's just opened up a lot there.
Absolutely.
So, this has really been a terrific conversation. I think we're just about at the end of it. There's so many points here that we could definitely make individual shows about each one, because there's just so many things in place and so many factors in history and the things that we're talking about that really all are part of this as well. But I thought this was a really excellent snapshot of what's going on with entrepreneurs. So do you have any final thoughts about any of this, or anything that you want to bring up or emphasize?
Yeah, so since I'm assuming your audience are, female entrepreneurs who are looking to, figure out how to make their venture successful, I think my one piece of advice, whether it's based on the results of this survey or on, my experiences, is to really appreciate the journey. Like I said, we oftentimes have a vision for what something should look like and how we're going to get there, and being open to alternative paths or alternative ways to get there can be quite liberating and satisfying. So I would just encourage female entrepreneurs to be thinking in that vein.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. I'm glad, as I said, glad that you made that point, because then I think people can kind of be open to the journey, because we're always rushing to some point that we're always trying to.
Especially as moms. Rushing preschool pickup. We are rushing to that 9 a.m. meeting. Do it every day.
Exactly. So, just kind of take a breath, everyone. You can just do that. Just start there, and don't run yourself too ragged here. Just kind of look more for integration, less for balance. I think that's just perfectly said. So, Pamela, I'm really so glad that you could join me today. This has really been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Thanks for having me, Deborah. It was great.
So everyone, I know you enjoyed it, so make sure you share this on social media. Make sure you let people know to listen in. Again, it's on Podomatic, it's on iTunes, on SoundCloud, and come to womenentrepreneursecrets.com. And you can get links for different platforms, and subscribe. And also check out the Facebook fan page, facebook.com/womenentrepreneurs. So the show also is posted there as well, so that's a good place to stop by and get the link to listen directly. So hope that you will do that. So once again, it's been Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you again next time. Bye. Thanks for joining us. You can also join in the conversation on facebook.com/womenentrepreneurs and on the website, womenentrepreneursecrets.com. And don't forget to listen in on ddcoach.podomatic.com and on iTunes.